Greetings, peace and blessings to you, your family, and loved ones. My name is Nana Bakai, and today I'm going to continue my research using the I Ching into what is going on in the Trump administration and what's going on with Donald Trump. Today's topic is please comment on the relationship with the deep state and shadow government. This is Donald Trump's relationship with the deep state and shadow government. Now, I want to start by saying, when Donald Trump was running for office, I don't know how late in the game it was, but it may have been right before he was selected to be president. I had a very interesting dream. I was with Melania, and we were together in the room, like a bedroom type place, but it was in a hotel. And we were in the bedroom or the hotel room with Donald Trump. And a young, well, I don't know, it was a serviceman. He was African American, and he was a serviceman, and he appeared to be someone who either worked on the building or something to that extent. And Donald knew him. However, the guy attempted to inject Donald with some type of syringe filled with something. And it kind of threw him off. Now, before that, Donald was preparing for bed, but he goes to bed in his full suit, like he's so hyper that he doesn't even put on pajamas. He just goes to bed in his clothes and wakes up in his suit kind of thing, ready for work. So I got the impression that he was indefatigable when it came to his ability to just keep moving. But at this point of the dream, the guy came in the room. Donald greeted him. He knew him. He was preparing for bed, and the guy stuck him with a syringe. And it took Donald's breath away of sorts, and it kind of threw him off guard. Melania got really nervous and scared, and he made us leave the room. So we went to the room, a journey room. We could see through the door what was happening with him, and basically Donald wrestled with the guy and for the most part got him out of the room, and he kind of went to bed or fell into his bed. But he didn't appear to be totally incapacitated, But he was protecting Melania and myself from the attack that was happening to him, but he was also able to fight off the attacker. So I thought that I'd share that dream with you, since it seemed to be a very interesting expression or view or insight into the kind of energy that Donald had. Anyway, let's look at these readings. I want to begin. Now listen, I hope this video is not really long. I want to try to make it as short as possible. You see all these questions I have, and I want to be able to be as succinct as possible, but I don't want to skip around or skip important pieces of this reading so that I end up giving you something that's not really comprehensive. And I like to be comprehensive, and I like to be thorough. So let's just first begin by looking at this question here. Please comment on the deep state, shadow government of the United States. Okay. So we have the second hexagram, lines 1, 3, 4, and 5, changing into 49. We have the insight into the second hexagram, or what is the nature of that second hexagram as it relates to the shadow government. 29, line 5 into 7. And then when we look at this 49, which is revolution, what is the nature of that? 52 and the 37. So what I got from this is the shadow government is a passive force, meaning that it's behind, it's not out, young or, readily apparent and so forth. It's passive, but it does have an impact, and it wants to create a revolution. However, the way that it does it, this is like when I got 29, I was like, I can't believe the I Ching. I can't believe sometimes the hexagrams that I get from them. But this is the shadow government right here. This is overshadowing. This is darkness. This is obliqueness. This is obscurity. And this is underneath all of that. This is lack of clarity and so forth. Inside of this hexagram is deception. Deception is a big piece of this. Games are being played because there's no clarity. And so you can't even see what's going on. So this is the nature of the shadow government, okay? And we have the fifth line changing into the army. To me, this represents the intelligence. All the ABC companies or agencies, okay? Now, 52 in relation to the revolution. A revolution with 52. So this is like, it's not attempting to create a revolution or major change. It's basically trying to forestall it so that the family, and these are the elites here, so that they can stay in positions, so that they can stay in positions of power, so that they can run the operation. 37 is the family. The family, you know, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all them other people and all those other fellers. This is the family, the community, the organization. Okay, so the shadow government is behind this. Okay, so what is the nature of the energetic forces that influence the shadow government? And we get 19th hexagram, lines 1 and 6 changing into 4. Then the deeper insight into 19, 24, 36. Deeper insight into 4, 13, 25. So what I get from this is those energies approached the family. And in doing so, they align themselves with the family that wants to keep the revolution still using shadowy strategies on a very in a passive way, but using shadowy. See, these revolution and second hexagram don't even go together, because the second hexagram is yin and revolution is yang. So we see here that there is a discrepancy going on in terms of how the shadow government. I know a lot of people are patriotic. They think there's going to be a revolution, blah, blah, blah. We're going to change things, etc., etc. Not as long as the shadow government is in charge. Ain't nothing going to change. Okay. So those energies that are that influence the shadow government came along and said, hey, you know, we got things in common, so on and so forth. But here with this 4, I'm thinking the 4 is telling me that the shadow government was immature and inexperienced in dealing with this particular energy that came to influence it. Now, it experienced this before. That's why we have the 24th hexagram. And when it experienced it before, the light, this influence, darkened the light of the shadow government. So not only do we have the shadow government already in darkness or lack of clarity or obscure or shadowy, but on top of that, so we got double trouble here. And when we look at it a little bit more, the influence with the immaturity and naivete, we're looking at this fellowship with men going into the unexpected. So what I got from that was they were not necessarily aware of how to interact with, let's say, human beings. And what happened is we had this this conflict here that happens in the 3rd line, and we get the unexpected. So here we have these energies. They come along and they ultimately end with this unexpected. They didn't even expect what was to come from interacting with this shadow government. So shadow government's around the table, and in walks this influence to try to manipulate or influence, in, what do you call it? I'm using influence now for lack of trying to find a better word, but that's what I'm saying here. Okay, so they got the unexpected. What is the nature of the role? What is the nature of its role as it relates to the U.S. political landscape? I'm talking about the shadow government. What is the nature of its role? Here we go with this 29 again, twice. An opposition. Okay, so its role is to overshadow, fog up the fog up the works, everything. Top line of 29 here, an opposition. So the shadow government is in opposition to the United States government. It's in opposition to the policies, the way the system is set. It's in opposition to it. And it opposes it through this nefarious, shadowy, so I can't think of a better word for it, hidden, obscure. This is called the abyss. Okay, and this abyss, we got the 6th-line changing at the 29th hexagram into alienation. All right, now here I'm going to say that this alienation is talking about the United States exceptionalism, because here alienation, the root, one of the layers of alienation has to do with bigotry. In other words, self-importance, saying that you're better than someone else. That's why you're alienated from everyone else, because you've separated yourself. So this hexagram talks about universal love. Universal love is what will bring about dispersion, and all will be in accord, because we will see ourselves and our fellow man. And then look at this, 40. This is liberation. Now, the United States Constitution is supposed to be a document about liberation, and it was supposed to be designed to be a liberating force for the masses, so for the constituents, or for the citizens of the United States. But it's just more about excitement. It's more about a pacifier. But the shadow government is really not trying to support and I can tell you that truly by looking at the next reading. What is the nature of the deep state shadow government's intentions as it relates to holding up the Constitution? So we have a lot of patriots who believe that the Constitution is is the cat's meow, it's the bottom line, it's the thing of all things. So with this 61, I would say that the philosophy behind it is fine. Okay. However, the shadow government is restraining it, holding it back, and taking it straight into censorship, which we can see with the many laws that came after the initial document was made. And then we get all this restraining, and darkening of the light with 36. So the shadow government is not in lockstep with the Constitution. It is actually attempting to overshadow it, to censor it, to darken its light. Okay. So what is the nature of the role of the deep state shadow government played as it relates to selecting, because we know our presidents are selected, Donald J. Trump, or DJT, for the office of the 45th POTUS? 63. They had come to the end of their road here. And I'm thinking about this hexagram right here, because this line, this 48 and the 2, 48 line 2 and the 39 was in Hillary Clinton's reading. And basically the shadow government was like, Hillary Clinton is not going to work. Okay, so we're going to throw our net behind DJ Trump. Okay. And in doing so, they also found that he too had the same issues. This is the jug. You go to the well, the jug's got holes in it, the fish are flying out the jug, etc., etc. So they said, okay, it's going to be a difficult beginning, but we can use him to some degree to keep the family. Here's that 37 again. The organization, the structure of the country, the way we want it. We can keep it that way. Now look at this top line of 3. This top line of 3 says that the difficulties were so hard that the wagon broke down. So they went behind him, but they're still having difficulties with Donald Trump. They're still having difficulties with him, but they're holding on. All right. So how does the deep state view him as the president? So they're watching him. They're watching him, and they're trying to determine how he can gather the people together. What is it that he can do? Now they're looking at their past, because obviously there was somebody else in there. When you look at this 24, this is happening again. So there was someone else in there, another president, I don't know who was similar to Donald Trump, and they are looking at a way how they can get his energy together, his behavior, so that they can gather the people around a single or a few core values, which I'm going to talk about later. All right, but they ran into obstructions. These obstructions got them looking again. So now they're saying, well, what's with the transition? We got to make this transition from Obama to Trump. How do we go about doing this? And we got the 44th hexagram, 64 lines 3 and 5 in the 44. Okay, so they planted a seed. This is about planting, or planting a seed thought that they know will create a certain neuroses. They're neurotic, they're afraid, and they planted that seed in Donald Trump so that he could be neurotic and paranoid too. So we got all these scared chickens working around here. The nature of the deep state shadow government's motive. This is how they viewed him. Now here are their motives. Like, what are they up to? What is their hidden agenda? Okay. I use the term motive instead of hidden agenda, because that seems to be somewhat of a bias. So I'll say motives as it relates to his interacting with him as he functions as a president. Here we go. See that 44? Their agenda is to make him nervous, make him neurotic. He's already anxious or hyper. You got this top line here. He's restless already. And this is going to be their creation. They need to create or remake him over again. So the way they're going to do it is by feeding into his own neurotic behavior and creating a new Donald Trump. But they're running into obstacles, though. You know, he's young, and he's restless, and he has a problem with hanging in there for the long haul. 32 is he's either resistant to change, or he won't stay there for the long haul. So they have to recreate this whole thing. Top line of 32, restlessness. So we got the shadow government is running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And so is Donald Trump. And all of it's causing obstacles, okay? The nature of the deep state shadow government, most immediate intention as it relates to interacting with him. Remember, the shadow government, they have not been elected. They have not been voted into office. They work in the shadows. And so here we have the 11th hexagram. So I'm thinking that Donald Trump has wealth. Okay. And the 11th hexagram, sometimes we get this hexagram when there is no peace. So in order to bring about peace, you have to bring the higher to support the lower, or bring the haves to support the have-nots. And so they're saying, you know, be resolute about that behavior right here, okay? But then we got the 10th hexagram. So it's still risky. Like, what type of what do you call it? Conversation. What type of arrangements? What type of deals? Okay, go back to that 29. What type of deals are they making behind the scenes with Donald Trump? Okay, and he has to be resolute. In other words, he has to make announcements. He has to stand up. So this is what their intentions are. They're going to come along and say, well, you know, do such and such and such and such, and be resolute about it, and stand for your rights and stand for what you. And then they're like, wait a minute, this is a little bit, we're treading here. We're not. This is a tiger we're dealing with, and we don't know what to expect from him. We don't know which way he's going to go. So what we'll do is, we will talk to him about the masses, the people, and how he needs to stand there and gather the people together so that they can continue their social engineering right here. Okay, the 16th hexagram. This is the media. This is the media. So he has to be really cognizant of what the media can do. You know, and that's not only the media, it's the comedians, the theater, everything, music, you know, videos, all kinds of things are coming out, you know, expressing their thoughts and feelings about Donald Trump. What was the nature of his awareness? Now, this is before he got in there. What did he think about this, the shadow government? That's what I'm asking with this question. So he's like, well, you know, they're, you follow, you know, they're there, they do what they do, and so forth and so on. But I think he was a little shocked when he saw what exactly was going on with the shadow government. I think that after he started figuring out a few things about how they function, he was still trying to hold on. He was still trying to follow the protocols or do what he was supposed to do, especially in terms of campaigning, blah, 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 following the rules, you know. But then when he did that, he got this shock right here. I'm sure he was shocked when they threatened to kill him and all that kind of stuff. And now he's oppressed. This is how he went into the office of presidency. Oppressed and wanting to feel like he could get, you know, have like-minded people around him. This promotion is important to him. In fact, it was in the other reading as well, along with the 46 hexagram. So this promotion is important to him, but this opposition right here, this oppression, not opposition, this hexagram is called oppression, exhaustion. Okay, so this is where he was before he even got in there. And in the shock, so it had him sit back and go, oh, this is how it goes. And he pulled away. So some of his reasoning behind not actually getting into the nitty-gritty of prosecuting Hillary has to do with him retreating, moving back, moving away from being right in the face of the shadow government. So now, how does he see it now? Now that he's been selected? He sees them as dangerous. He sees them as conflict. He sees the need to retreat from them. He sees that he sees himself, this is how I'm interpreting it, as a sacrificial lamb, because 42 is about increase. So if we have 10 and conflict and 33, then we're definitely not like, if there's any increase, he's getting an increase in information about how they work. He's gaining in the inner truth of how that shadow government works. I think he looks at the presidency or becoming president as a trophy. Like when I do my readings on different hexagrams, you'll see that I have the 10th hexagram where the guy's holding up a trophy and a girl on his shoulder, because sometimes you just have these things on your shelf just to show off. But this trophy gave him conflict. Okay. Now, what did DJ Trump most immediate intentions as it relates to now what are his intentions? This is going to be a little bit unnerving for some folks who are such strong Trump supporters. So I'm gonna say this now. So I'm 24 minutes into the video, and if you don't like it, you can turn it off, but I'm gonna say it now. He is going to hold with them. Trump is going to gather around with them. He is going to follow them. He knows the country needs to be held together. That's why we have this 8th hexagram here, holding together, which came into in the other reading I did, when things are falling apart. So he's gonna move right with them. He's gonna do it. He's just gonna follow the leader. That's what he's gonna do. After initially, so then I'm like, wait a second, this is the guy that's supposed to be, anti-establishment. What do you mean he's going to gather together with them? He's going to reach out his hand. This is a hex line right here where he talks about he's outside of the group. And in order to get inside the group, it's almost like the white flag of surrender. He's going to reach out his hand so that he could be a part of the group. And once he gets in there, he's going to follow the leader. He's going to be a leader that's following a leader. Yeah. So when I got that, I was like, wait a minute. After he initially resisted the deep state, why is he joining them? And the oracle says, honey, it's human nature. With all of that opposition he was getting and all of that obstruction, oppression, and conflict, what else could he do but fold? But his folding is going to hold everything up. Things are not going to move as quickly. In fact, this is 5. So this is like you got to wait for the cosmos to respond. Okay? So it's going to hold everything up, but it's human nature. I see the 48th hexagram talking to us about human nature. Now we got that first line of the 48th hexagram. He's at the very beginning of even getting himself together to even be what he needs to be in the position of president of the United States. So it says here, if a man wanders around in swampy lowlands, his life is submerged in mud. Such a man loses all significance for mankind. He who throws himself away is no longer sought out by others. In the end, no one troubles about him anymore. So that's what the oracle is saying about Donald Trump and his capitulating to them. That's the first line of 48. So now we have the intelligence, the ABC agencies who are in now they're there. They're there now. And they're probably not going to, some of them that are there, the top line of 7 says, make sure you have the right people in power here. And some of them are cool, and some of them are not so cool. But they're all about this here. This American exceptionalism. Whatever we do, we do. Okay. And here's another thing that I want to bring out too. This 44 came up. So after he initially resisted it, he started becoming neurotic about it. And that was their intention toward him way up here. Okay, their motive was to make him a nervous wreck, make him paranoid. So he became paranoid. He started being nervous. He started thinking about one little thing, then 3 little things, then 4. Next thing you know, he's all the way over in left field. This is inner truth. So on some levels, Donald Trump is seeing what they are all about. This is a philosophical hexagram, but this is the hexagram that uncovers the 29. It uncovers the truth. It shows you what's really, really there. So the status of his relationship with the deep state, now that he's kind of went along, so that he could get along. There, he's the receptive now. Now he's like, he's receptive to them. And this 44 is back again. This 44, like this 44, is back again, So we have this paranoia going on again. This nervousness. Okay. Now this is where he is. Now he's walking on eggshells. Now he's uncertain. Now he's filled with anxiety. Now he's having some issues, So he's going to be you know, he's going to be having some troubles here. So now we have, please give deeper insight into the meaning of that second hexagram. Donald Trump wants peace. So go back to that 48. This is human nature. Human nature really doesn't want, human beings don't really want a lot of grief in their lives. Okay? He really doesn't want, oh, here we go. Here it is, the 48. He really doesn't want a lot of grief in his life. Okay? So we got 48 a couple times. He doesn't want a lot of grief in his life. So he's going to go along. He wants peace. Now, in his mind, he's being superficial. So for those of you who are concerned about him capitulating, he's just doing it for show. He's not real. It's not coming from his heart. This is grace. So he's just trying to make a good, bring a good face, make it look good, make it look okay, make it be all right. You know, so it'll look like he's doing it, but he's not doing it from his heart of hearts. But he wants peace. So he's like, okay, I'll play the game. I'll play the role. What role do you need me to play? And now we have, how is it impacting on his mental health? The subordinate. He is being used. Donald Trump is being used so that the transition can take place. And at the top line of 54, let's see what he's feeling like about being used at that top line. It says here, a woman holds the basket, but there are no fruits in it. The man stabs the sheep, but no blood flows. So the whole faking it so he can make it is still not going to help him, because he's not doing it what he should be doing, which is standing his ground and holding on to who he is instead of giving up his true nature. So here the ritual is only a superficially fulfilled, you know, and so it's irreverent. This impious, irreverent attitude bodes no good. So he's going to be a part of this process, but he's going to be so insincere and so superfluous that, you know, it's just not going to do him any good. But he's going to make the transition, you know, deeper insight. So here the oracle is saying that Donald Trump has a lot of talents, but they're not going to be used, because see that 41 decrease. And this is going to be hard for him to be a subordinate. It's going to be taking a risk. And we got the top line, and we got 58. Now, when I see the 58 hexagram, I see self-medication. So we wonder how come our presidents do drugs and drink alcohol and do all kinds of other stuff. Because this kind of pressure is enough to drive you mad. So in order to maintain yourself, you use something to keep yourself going. All right, so how did Donald J. Trump supporters overall view? This is what I know you guys are not going to appreciate him capitulating. Some of you are going to say, well, it's to be expected. He was up against a lot of conflict. Some of you are going to say, well, he had to do, he had to follow, he had to acquiesce, he had to give in. Some of you are going to say, well, he did it to bring the country back together, but still that was a dangerous move on his part. Dangerous. Because see this conflict? There's going to be conflict about the fact that he's capitulating. Okay. So how is it now that they got him, they got Donald, now that they have him, how do they see it? Difficulty at the beginning, but they're going to get him. He's going to be the one. And I really feel some kind of way, because he's going to be the one to help the deep state do what it does. Oh, my heart is hurting. He's going to be the one to help the deep state. Now, everybody's shocked, because I don't think the deep state expected him to be the one to help them. They were thinking they were going to have to do a little more manipulation, a little more giving him offers he can't refuse, like this 44. But he's under a lot of pressure just because. So that pressure that he was under, that I talked about in the first video, I talked about his mental health. Just the whole responsibility of being president is overwhelming to him. The opposition to him, the people coming after him, and the whole nine, the protests and all, not my president stuff, all of that is too much. It's overwhelming him. So he's gonna fold under the pressure of it all, and he's just gonna continue. He's gonna be a puppet for the deep state, and he's going to bring the people with him. Now, these people up here who are conflictual, maybe not these, but if you, what do you call it, make excuses for him, he's human nature, blah blah blah, he has to follow in order for him to get us, the country, out of danger, he's trying to bring the country together, blah blah blah, his heart's in the right place. That's that second line right here. You know, top line of 45 says, where's it at? Let me get that 45th hexagram here quickly for you. 45, 45, 45. We don't want any dead air. Okay. It says, lamenting and sighing, flood of tears. It may happen that an individual would like to ally himself with another, but his good intentions are misunderstood. Then he becomes sad and laments. But this is the right course, for it may cause the other person to come to his senses, so that the alliance that has been sought and so painfully missed is after all achieved. Okay? Lamenting and sighing, flood of tears, no blame. So, the people are going to lament and they're going to sigh. They really want to be with him. They want to change. So, anyhow, the shadow government says to Donald Trump, "Welcome to the fold, my son. You are now one of us." So I had to go a little bit deeper because I know the 45th hexagram talks about core values. What do you have in common? What is it that you place your values on? Now, you know how people say this is a Christian country, so most of the Christians believe in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. So that's their core value. That's their center. That's their stadium, their foundation. So that's where their core values come from, right? The Bible. Okay, so we're saying with the 45th hexagram, we're going to gather the people around a core value, okay? But we already know what the values of the deep state are. So here we are down here. What are Donald Trump's core values? Contradiction and conflict, decrease, and what is this here? After the end, peace, and 9. So here we have a very interesting connection or commingling between Donald Trump and the deep state shadow government. They're both contradictory and opposing each other and opposing others. They're both conflictual. So it's like 2 peas in the pod do we have here. You know, they're both in decline. This is a decline towards, so they're pulling out, they're releasing or limiting. I've got to find the right words for this. Decreasing. This hexagram is called decrease. So there's a decrease in emotionality when you get the 41st hexagram. So we're decreasing here so that we can tie this thing up. What are we trying to tie up? What are we trying to bring to an end? You know, because we have all this transition up here, the 64th hexagram, trying to get to the, so we're trying to tie up some loose ends so we can get to the transition. What are we trying to do? Get rid of, we're going to try to get all of Obama's administration people out and get all of the deep state people in. And then we have the 11th hexagram. Top line says that, you just overdoing in terms of trying to bring peace. And then we have 9. Remember, 9 is from the other one. So what this was very, very interesting. Typically we have hexagrams that kind of support one another and kind of speak in terms of one another. But this, and so we have 38. You don't want 38 and 6 in the same reading. You don't want opposition and conflict. Opposition by itself changing into something, 6 by itself changing into something else. But you don't want 38 opposition, contradiction, estrangement. Like, the government, the shadow government is estranged from the people, and Donald Trump is estranged from the people. So they got that in common. And then we have conflict. This is conflict of interest. So Donald Trump functions from his conflict of interest. He does something one way and it conflicts what he really stands for. So he moves to another direction. And so he stands in places where he really doesn't feel in his heart. You see this up here? This superficiality right here? That's a conflict of interest. And that superficiality is going to have him be decrease. His energy is going to be decreased. There's going to be a lower tone in the way that he's going to be interacting. He's going to decrease his opposition or his conflict with the deep state. They're going to decrease their conflict and opposition to him. And then it's going to all come to an end. Okay, now we're all together. And now we have the 11th hexagram, something that looks like a little piece, but there's something holding it up. And like I said on the other hexagram, the other reading, that little thing that's holding up the works might be small, but it's very powerful. And what is that? That entity, that energy behind the shadow government. So, basically, folks, Donald Trump gave it his good try, the best. He went in there boxing. He went in there, but he couldn't. This is a TKO for him. He couldn't go how many rounds it is? 9 rounds. He couldn't go it. He went 2-3 rounds, and now he's down. And I'm sorry to say this. It's painful because people, I feel, I'm an empath, so I feel people's hope and their faith and their desire and their need for this savior that's going to come out. And I keep hearing these videos and these people, we got these people over here who believe in him and these people over there who believe in him, and these very positive, well-spoken, well-learned people who really believe in him. But he's a casualty of the deep state. That's what the oracle is telling me. He's a casualty. He's another one. He fought the good fight, but he couldn't keep it up. With that neuroses, with that paranoia, no telling what offer they gave him that he couldn't refuse. This right here, this 44, that's not good. Not good at all. Not to mention all the way up here, we got the deep state with the 29. As far as they care about the country, look at this. This is totally opposite from making America great again. No, it's not. It's about keeping America in opposition, taking away America's freedom, and giving them drugs. Okay? That's what it's about. It's not about helping the American people have anything great again. Not at all. Top line of 29, I'm going to read this to you so you can get it straight between the eyes. Bound with cords and ropes, shut in between thorn, hedge, prison walls. This is a prison plan. I keep telling y'all this. For 3 years, no one does not find the way. Misfortune. A man who is in extremity, the extremity, please pardon me, I get tongue-tied. A man who is in the extremity of danger has lost the right way and is irremediably entangled in his sins, has no prospect of escape, people. This is what we are talking about. He is like a criminal who sits shackled behind thorn-hedged prison walls. That's the nature of the the nature of the shadow government in terms of its role in the political landscape of the United States, people. So we all, folks, need to wake up, man, because this is not it. All right, I'm done. Sorry it took so long. I don't want to put it in two parts because it's not a two-part thing. This is not like you do a little bit here, you do 5 minutes of this, because you guys don't like to watch my videos longer than 5 minutes. But this is not about a 5-minute shot. This is about sitting down, paying attention, absorbing the information, and allowing that information to have an impact on your consciousness so that you can lift the veil, get out of the matrix, or start seeing the matrix that you are in. Okay? This whole electoral thing, the voting for this whole thing, is not, the shadow government is not going to allow it to be anything but what the oracle says. You know, it's a man who is in the extremity of danger, has lost the right way, and is irremediably entangled in his sins. They can't get out of it. They have lied so much. They have, performed so many false flags, so many that the cover can't come off. It's a cancer. And Donald Trump can't cure America. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's the deal. All right, folks, I hope you got something out of this. And I hope you stayed along with me, and I thank you for staying there with me. It was kind of painful, and I think it's because I'm an empath and I can feel people's hearts breaking as he disappoints them day in and day out. He is going to do it. So just get yourself together and find faith within yourself. Find hope within instead of displacing your hope on the pedestal of somebody else. Okay? Peace and blessings to you, your family, and loved ones.